if the very instinct that's designed to keep us alive, that drive to survive, is also contributing to chronic illness and maybe even preventing deep, lasting healing? It's a really profound paradox, isn't it? Right at the heart of our well-being. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we unpack complex ideas and try to distill them into essential, actionable insights. Today, we're embarking on a truly fascinating exploration of Dr. Isaac Elias's groundbreaking work, The Survival Paradox.
Yeah, and this really isn't just another health book. It feels more like a whole new way of looking at health and disease.
Mhm.
Dr. Elias, he draws on Western Chinese and integrative medicine. He shows us how our body's own survival response, the one meant to protect us, can actually turn against us. But crucially, he also gives us a clear roadmap for what we can actually do about it.
Right. So, our mission today is to really get into this paradox, identify the key player involved, and explore how a truly holistic approach, looking at everything from our cell biochemistry all the way to mind body practices, how
Mm,
that can help us shift from just surviving to genuinely thriving.
yeah.
This deep dive is for you, designed to give you a clearer understanding of your body's incredible inherent capacity for healing. Okay, so let's unpack this. The core idea here, the survival paradox, it suggests that the very system designed to protect us can, under certain conditions, become a barrier to our well being. How does that mechanism, our innate survival drive, actually turn against us?
Well, it's rooted deep in our most primal response system, the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight.
Mm,
When that response and its physiological partner, the inflammatory response, gets triggered over and over, and it just stays on,
yeah.
it creates this chronic state of emergency. And that's not just uncomfortable, it actively leads to tissue degeneration, chronic disease. It can even create these specific little microenvironments where disease, yeah, even something aggressive like cancer, can literally thrive,
Yeah.
sometimes causing more damage than the initial stressor ever did.
Wow. We saw this so vividly with Rebecca's situation in the book. And diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, her anxiety, her fear of dying, it was palpable. And that fear, driven by that powerful survival instinct, it actually had the potential to feed her cancer cells. It's a chilling example of the paradox in action, really.
And right at the heart of this whole survival response, acting like its master architect, is a truly remarkable molecule, galectin 3. It's a carbohydrate binding protein. Dr. Elias identified it as the master protein, the core initiator of this self-preservation mechanism. You can almost think of it as the survival protein because it orchestrates so much of this defensive action.
Okay, that's a pivotal insight. How can just one molecule have such a powerful, wide-ranging hold on our physiology? What does it actually do?
Well, when it gets activated, say by an injury, an infection, or other stressors, galectin 3 immediately kicks off inflammation and fibrosis. Fibrosis is that scarring or hardening of tissues. What's really striking, though, is that it can overexpress in specific areas like your joints, your cardiovascular system, even your brain. And it exerts different sort of targeted effects depending on what it binds to in that specific microenvironment. It's like a conductor for this whole orchestra of survival responses.
And when you connect that to modern life, gosh, you can see how increasing isolation, these pervasive environmental toxins we're exposed to, and just chronic mental, physical, emotional stress, how all that contributes to unhealthy galectin-3 expression. It creates this perpetually closed loop system, like an alarm that just never turns off. It's deeply ironic, isn't it? Because even something like modern loneliness, which probably stems from an evolutionary self-preservation instinct, needing the tribe to survive, can become maladaptive today. It's now linked with really serious conditions like stroke, heart disease, diabetes, all because it keeps that internal alarm blaring constantly.
Yeah, and a key mechanism here is how galectin 3 creates these isolating lattice formations. People often call them biofilms. Around areas of damage, infection, toxic buildup. Imagine building a protective wall around what the body sees as a threat. So these microenvironments, they get walled off from normal circulation, they become inflamed, they become hypoxic, meaning they lack oxygen. And this leads to incredibly inefficient energy production. It fuels disease processes and, maybe even more concerning, it allows pathogens and cancer cells to effectively hide from the immune system. They're hiding almost in plain sight, protected by this galectin-3 barrier. At a cellular level, this constant survival response forces a really drastic shift in how cells make energy. Normally, our cells are incredibly efficient. They use aerobic metabolism that's with oxygen in the mitochondria to generate energy, loads of it. But under this perceived survival threat, cells rapidly switch gears. They go into anaerobic glycolysis, producing energy without oxygen. Think of it like a car suddenly switching from efficient cruising to just burning fuel like crazy in an emergency, creating a lot of toxic exhaust. This leads to lactic acid buildup and, crucially, mitochondrial dysfunction. The cell's power plants get damaged, they run inefficiently. And this cellular dysfunction is quite literally at the root of so many chronic diseases because the cells just can't function or heal properly.
So, if galectin-3 is driving this inefficient emergency energy production, what does that actually mean for our cells day to day? How does it mess up the body's natural processes?
It dramatically disrupts communication all through the body.
Mm.
It interferes with crucial cell receptors, it ramps up that fight or flight response even more, and it fuels the production of pro-inflammatory byproducts that just damage cells and their surroundings. And even more critically, a damaged cell. Instead of undergoing programmed cell death, apoptosis, which is a healthy cleanup process, it can get stuck.
Yeah.
It behaves like it's still under threat, refusing to die and be replaced. That contributes to persistent dysfunction and the progression of disease.
And in the specific context of cancer, this particular molecule plays an even more insidious role, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In cancer, galectin-3 can trigger angiogenesis. That's the formation of new blood vessels. It's essentially building a superhighway, directly feeding and fueling tumors, allowing them to grow faster and become far more aggressive. It also actively reduces the function of p53. p53 is also called the guardian of the genome. It's a key tumor suppressor gene. So galectin-3 doesn't just feed the cancer, it actively disables one of the body's most important defenses against it.
Wow. Okay. So, given how absolutely central galectin-3 seems to be to this whole damaging survival response, it really begs the question, is there a way to intervene,
Yeah.
right at that biochemical level? Are there solutions that can specifically target this master protein without disrupting everything else?
Well, this leads us to a really crucial solution that directly addresses the paradox. Modified citrus pectin, or MCP. It's a form of pectin derived from citrus fruits, but it's a low molecular weight form. And it's uniquely modified to bind directly to galectin-3's carbohydrate recognition domain. So it effectively blocks its detrimental effects. It sort of intercepts the signal. And it's vital to understand this isn't the regular pectin you find in, say, jams. That stuff isn't absorbed into the bloodstream. It's this specific low molecular weight modification that makes MCP so powerful systemically.
It's fascinating to trace the history here. Dr. Elias was apparently talking about pectin way back in 1971, long before this specific modification was widely understood. And then there was the pivotal 1995 study showing MCP dramatically decreased lung metastasis in mice, specifically by inhibiting galectin-3. So this isn't some brand new fad. It feels like the culmination of decades of really focused research and understanding.
Exactly. That longevity in its development, it speaks volumes. And numerous studies since then have demonstrated MCP's broad spectrum of benefits, precisely because it targets galectin-3. Imagine you could silence the specific protein that fuels inflammation, that drives scarring, that even shelters cancer cells. That's why we see these effects like reducing chronic inflammation and fibrosis, relieving pain from conditions like arthritis, back pain, even cancer pain. It can stop and even reverse arteriosclerotic damage, protect the delicate blood-brain barrier, help beneficial gut bacteria flourish. It even shows antimicrobial effects against things like MRSA. It's like a precision tool that actively disarms that always-on alarm we talked about, allowing the body to finally shift from defense mode into deep repair.
Think about Jonathan's story from the book. A busy professional battled hypertension for years, persistent bleeding gums. Things that seem minor, maybe, but are signals of a body under strain, stuck in that survival mode. What's truly remarkable is that when he started taking MCP, not only did his blood pressure normalize and his gums heal, but his immune system apparently became so robust he could travel the world extensively without getting sick. It's such a powerful illustration, isn't it? How quieting that fundamental, maybe ever-present survival alarm can unlock unexpected, profound healing across the entire system. It makes you wonder what else is possible when we quiet that internal alarm.
And if we broaden our perspective a bit, we can see how this principle extends to the heart. Dr. Elias describes the heart as the emperor or king of the body and the ultimate transformative organ. Think about it. It takes in dirty venous blood and transforms it into clean arterial blood. And it nourishes itself first as part of nourishing the entire body. It's an incredibly potent metaphor for transformation.
Yeah, and that physiological transformation, taking in something dirty, transforming it into something clean, it actually mirrors emotional and psychological transformation too. It's about changing negative emotions like anger and fear into love and compassion. This is particularly resonant when you think that the heart radiates the largest and most powerful magnetic field in the body, permeating every single cell.
Right. And this leads us to differentiate what we often think of as outer medicine, which mainly treats symptoms, from what Dr. Elias calls true healing. True healing, within this framework of the survival paradox, really means addressing the root cause, that chronically activated survival response.
Now, when we talk about cancer, it's often defined as this uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells, functioning independently, like rogue cells attacking the host. These cells change their metabolism, they block apoptosis, that natural cell death, they create new blood vessels, all desperate attempts to survive.
And galectin-3 directly influences this cancerous survival. We mentioned it reduces the function of p53, the guardian of the genome, which leads to more aggressive cancer. And as I said, it triggers angiogenesis, literally building supply lines to feed tumors. So blocking galectin-3 is actually a strategic intervention. It can reduce cancer aggressiveness and significantly enhance the response to conventional treatments like chemo or radiation.
That's a critical point. But how does this cellular survival story and its connection to galectin-3, how does that intertwine with our personal history, our emotions?
Well, the field of epigenetics is showing us we're not just rigidly bound by our genetic blueprint. Epigenetics studies how things like environmental factors, chronic stress, lifestyle choices, how they can actually influence how our genes are expressed. Think of it less like changing the original text of a book, and more like changing which paragraphs get highlighted or underlined or even ignored. It shapes our biological narrative in real time. And from a Chinese medicine perspective, the location of cancer often relates directly to stored emotional trauma, like adrenal cancer in Mary's case, linking to deep fear. Yeah, Mary's story really highlights this need for an individualized approach. Her adrenal cancer was profoundly linked to a childhood trauma, seemingly simple, her dog being given away, but it was a deep wound she carried. And then there's John, the terminal leukemia patient. He went into remission with a strong support system and a holistic program. Amazing. But sadly, when he reverted to old habits, old stressors, he relapsed. It just shows the persistent influence of that survival mode if it's not continually addressed.
And then there's Linda. Stage 4 ovarian cancer, given very little hope. But she used this diagnosis, the survival paradox framework, really, to profoundly reevaluate her priorities. She quit her demanding job, pursued her passion for art and poetry, and had this unexpected positive response to chemotherapy. She lived years longer with a significantly better quality of life. Her story isn't just about remission, it's about a profound transformation of her life that fundamentally shifted her body out of that chronic survival state. Even if the disease wasn't completely eliminated, it's healing on a different level.
Exactly. And this is where integrative medicine really shines. It's about combining conventional treatments with complementary support, not just to enhance efficacy, but also to reduce toxicity. For example, by blocking galectin-3 and supporting healthy blood supply, we can actually make cancer cells more radiosensitive. They respond better to radiation. Dietary strategies are critical too. Low glycemic diets, intermittent fasting, these help deplete glucose stores and induce autophagy, that cellular cleanup process. Ellen, for instance, had an aggressive myosarcoma. They responded remarkably well to these kinds of metabolic shifting strategies. It shows you can literally starve the survival mechanism of the cancer cells.
And it's not just about what you see on a scan, right? Monitoring cancer can go beyond just physical symptoms, using methods like PSA velocity for prostate cancer or even pulse diagnosis in Chinese medicine, which can indicate these energetic imbalances linked to disease progression.
Now, let's shift focus slightly and explore how the survival paradox impacts that crucial axis of water and fire, the unique link between the heart and kidneys, as it's called in Chinese medicine. Physiologically, the heart starts the circulation, gets everything moving, while the kidneys are responsible for filtering the blood, maintaining fluid balance. Crucial roles.
What's particularly insightful or maybe disturbing about how our survival paradox impacts these vital organs, it sounds like a vicious cycle.
It absolutely is. Common conditions like hypertension, diabetes, often driven by chronic inflammation, they reduce blood supply to these organs. This triggers a kind of frantic survival response where the kidneys secrete hormones to increase blood pressure, trying to force more blood through. But paradoxically, this causes further damage. And galectin-3 plays a critical, really insidious role in accelerating the fibrosis, the scarring and deterioration of both the heart and kidneys. We heard Kathy's story, stage 3 chronic kidney disease, CKD. She saw a remarkable increase in her eGFR, that's the estimated glomerular filtration rate, a key measure of kidney function after therapeutic apheresis and MCP. And Robert, a severe heart failure patient. He experienced dramatic reductions in his LPA and inflammatory markers after apheresis, restoring his energy and even his kidney function. These aren't just minor tweaks, they show a fundamental shift away from that survival-driven deterioration.
So if this survival mechanism is so tightly linked to the damage in these vital organs, what are the most effective strategies? How do we support heart and kidney health and actually interrupt that cycle?
It's really about systematically dismantling that galectin-3-driven vicious cycle. A low glycemic anti-inflammatory diet isn't just, general wellness advice. It's about starving the inflammatory pathways that keep galectin-3 perpetually active. You're directly interrupting the paradox at a metabolic level. Regular exercise, walking fast enough to sweat, maybe some intermittent jogging improves circulation, reduces inflammation, helps break down those isolating lattice formations. Stress reduction. Practices like yoga, tai chi, they calm the sympathetic nervous system, literally turning off the alarm. And of course, targeted supplements like MCP with dosages tailored to the individual, along with things like Padma Basic, curcumin, various mitochondrial support nutrients. These actively block galectin-3 and help restore cellular energy, allowing these organs to finally begin healing instead of surviving day to day. Okay, moving on to the liver and lungs. The liver is often described as the body's past and future organ. It handles countless enzymatic and chemical processes. It's the big detoxifier for everything we encounter. In Chinese medicine, when the liver gets stuck, it leads not just to toxicity, but also to emotions like frustration and anger.
And those isolating lattice formations of lectin-3 we talked about, they are highly detrimental specifically to the liver. They contribute significantly to liver fibrosis, the scarring. This is incredibly relevant now, given the skyrocketing prevalence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, and its more severe form, NASH. These conditions affect, about 25% of the global population? This isn't just about a fatty liver. It's about a liver stuck in survival mode, literally scarring itself over time.
Meanwhile, the lungs,
Mm-hmm.
from an energetic perspective, they have this profound connection to grief and sadness. Their role in the body, just the simple act of breathing, is inherently about letting go of carbon dioxide, yes, but symbolically letting go of these heavy emotions too.
So how do we intervene? How do we help shift these vital organs, the liver and lungs, out of that survival state and into healing?
The interventions are really about creating an environment where these organs can finally release and heal. An anti-inflammatory, low-glycemic Mediterranean-style diet reduces the load on the liver. Intermittent fasting helps by inducing autophagy, allowing the liver time to clean up and repair itself. Crucially, caring for the colon and the microbiome, using MCP as a powerful prebiotic, for example, supports the liver's detoxification pathways downstream. And deep breathing exercises. They're not just for relaxation. They actively engage the lungs in their letting go function, helping to release both emotional and physical stagnation. Elizabeth's story from the book illustrates this beautifully. She cleared unresolved grief, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, by consciously letting go of past issues through acupuncture and emotional work. This led directly to improved lung health and vitality. It's a testament to how profoundly emotional release impacts physical well-being. And we should remember, chronic inflammation, even from things like low-level radiation exposure, can contribute to these issues too. Now, looking at metabolic issues, diabetes and obesity. Diabetes is essentially a disease of starvation, but at the cellular level. The cells can't absorb glucose properly, even though there are high levels in the blood. They're literally starving while the body's awash in sugar. And galectin-3 directly contributes here. It binds to insulin receptors, inhibiting the signaling, initiating insulin resistance. It just fuels this internal cellular starvation.
Right. And we know insulin resistance and obesity are often linked to poor diets, especially refined sugars, saturated fats, and lack of physical activity. The gut microbiome also plays such a critical role here, doesn't it? Sugar-feeding fungi, bacterial toxins affecting the gut lining, even our gums, creating the systemic inflammatory state that keeps galectin-3 on high alert.
Yeah. And while the ketogenic diet can be beneficial for some, it's often seen as an alternate emergency diet. There can be risks if the foods aren't chosen carefully. Intermittent fasting, on the other hand, feels like a more balanced approach. It powerfully promotes autophagy, that cellular cleanup and mitochondrial function booster. This doesn't just offer anti-aging benefits. It fundamentally improves insulin function by allowing cells to rest and reset their energy production, shifting them out of that frantic, inefficient survival mode.
This next part is truly revolutionary, I think. The idea about neurodegenerative diseases. We used to think neurons just stop dividing or repairing after a certain age, right? But that's simply not true. The brain absolutely can regenerate neurons, which means that many neurodegenerative conditions are, at least theoretically, reversible. That completely changes the game for brain health.
It really does. And unsurprisingly, galectin-3 actively contributes to the progressive degeneration of brain and nerve cells, driving that survival at all costs mentality, even within neurons. Acute factors like infections, chronic inflammation, environmental toxins, they can all significantly impact the nervous system, pushing it further into distress. So the treatments here, again, are about disarming that survival response.
Yeah.
An anti-inflammatory diet is foundational. Hanokokil, a powerful botanical that can penetrate the blood-brain barrier and help normalize cellular function, is promising. And crucially, supporting the gut-brain connection. Using prebiotics, probiotics, B vitamins, even simple exercises like slow, deep breathing, which directly calms the nervous system and supports brain repair.
Andy's story is just so inspiring. It really encapsulates this principle. He was 70, advanced Parkinson's, and 2 cancers. After a severe reaction to chemotherapy, he embraced integrative medicine. And what's astonishing is that he overcame what was considered an incurable neurodegenerative disease while simultaneously overcoming 2 cancers. He eventually danced with his wife again, lived 13 years longer, not just surviving, but genuinely thriving. It's such a powerful testament to the miracle of regeneration and healing when the body's innate capacity is finally unleashed from that survival grip.
Now let's look briefly at imbalances of the immune system and the microbiome. The immune system's fundamental role, its core job, is to protect self from other.
Mm.
Autoimmunity, then, is this inappropriate immune reaction where the system attacks the body itself. It perceives self as other. It's a profound internal conflict, really stemming from the survival paradox.
And when you think about the wider implications, our internal struggles, our social isolation, it seems these can manifest physically as autoimmune issues. Autoimmunity can be triggered not just by toxins and infections, but powerfully by emotional and psychological stresses. And galectin-3 definitely contributes to this inappropriate, hypervigilant immune response, blurring those critical lines between self and non-self.
Exactly. And similarly, allergies are another manifestation, an inappropriate immune response to stimuli from outside the body. The survival alarm turns on unnecessarily in response to harmless things like pollen or certain foods.
And the microbiome, often called our second brain or a community. It's just astonishing. 100 trillion microorganisms making up 90% of our body's DNA, mostly in the gut. Its well-being isn't just about digestion. It deeply reflects this concept of community and connection right within our own bodies. And those early influences are so critical. The mother's microbiome during birth, breastfeeding, introducing beneficial bacteria like L. reuteri, laying the foundation for a healthy internal community.
But this internal community can become imbalanced. That's called dysbiosis. Or the intestinal lining can get damaged, leading to leaky gut where toxins leak into circulation. Both of these fuel chronic inflammation, autoimmune diseases, even neurodegenerative issues. And galectin-3 plays a role here too, helping pathogenic bacteria survive and stick around. Well, of course, antibiotic overuse can severely disrupt the delicate balance of the microbiome, leaving us vulnerable.
That's why it's so vital to combine probiotics, introducing the good guys, with prebiotics, like MCP, which feed and foster those healthy bacteria. It creates a supportive environment. It's that happy gut, happy brain connection in action, isn't it? With gut bacteria actually producing maybe up to 90% of our serotonin, directly impacting our mood and neurological health.
Ultimately, the goal in all of this is to cultivate resilience, both psychological resilience and immune resilience. And resilience isn't just about bouncing back unchanged. It's the ability to adapt and recover appropriately to stressors, rather than getting stuck in that constant survival alarm. That's what allows us to move from merely surviving day in and day out to genuinely thriving. So let's talk about breaking free, the macro roadmap. Detoxification and letting go are central. The human body is in a constant, intricate state of detoxification. Just breathing is a perfect daily example, taking in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide. The liver is the body's main storage and detox organ. It's continually processing past toxins and preparing for the future by breaking down new compounds we encounter.
This raises a really critical point, though. How do we detoxify, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically, too? It feels like detoxification isn't just about physical waste products. It's also about releasing negative emotions, these mental fixations we get stuck in, even deep-seated traumas.
Precisely. A well-designed detox protocol should align with the body's natural detox cycle, making sure we clear out the materials that get discharged. Dr. Eliazs even posits the universe itself as an infinite reservoir of elimination, highlighting this intricate, interdependent relationship between us and everything around us. And targeting galectin-3 is really at the heart of healthy detoxification because it helps dismantle those internal walls, those biofilms that prevent proper elimination of toxins and pathogens.
Okay, so a comprehensive detox protocol seems to involve distinct stages. First, preparation, reducing your toxin exposure, supporting your elimination organs like the liver, kidneys, gut. Then, discharge and elimination, actively supporting the liver's phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification pathways. And finally, rejuvenation focusing on deep cellular healing once the burden is reduced. It seems absolutely critical to stress the importance of an organic, low-inflammatory diet throughout and supporting the microbiome with prebiotics and probiotics, including MCP. We learned that galectin-3 creates these box patterns where issues like heavy metals or chronic infections can literally hide walled off. But opening these boxes reveals the real story of what's truly driving the dysfunction.
Now, when it comes to addressing the scars of survival,
Hmm.
consider that any wound, whether it's emotional or physical, that doesn't fully resolve, it heals with a scar.
Yeah.
And a scar fundamentally isn't functional tissue. It's not fully alive in the same way. Healing these deep scars, therefore, literally makes us more alive.
And this is where epigenetics becomes so fascinating and honestly empowering. It shows us we are not rigidly bound by our genetic blueprint. We can actually change and create ourselves all the way down to the biochemical level. Epigenetics, again, is the study of changes in gene expression caused by factors other than our DNA sequence, things like environment, stress, lifestyle choices. It's like changing which paragraphs in our life's book get highlighted or ignored,
Right.
shaping our biological narrative in real time.
Yeah, the author's own family story is such a powerful illustration of these inherited patterns. His grandmother's incredible strength in surviving the Holocaust, it came at a price. She was always on alert, this deeply ingrained survival pattern that was passed down to his mother. His grandfather, on the other hand, seemed unable to digest the trauma, and he developed stomach cancer. It's a visceral example of how inherited emotional and physical patterns can literally be scarred into our DNA expression, influencing health across generations.
And Dr. Elias's personal story of multi-generational healing. It's truly profound. He described experiencing lifelong sternal pain right in his breastbone. He later came to understand it represented his inherited family trauma from the Holocaust. Through decades of meditation and specific healing practices, he was able to touch the source of that pain and release it. And what's truly astonishing is that his mother, who was completely unaware of his internal healing journey, was then able to watch Holocaust programs on TV for the first time in her life, something she could never ever do before. It just demonstrates how actively changing our habits, healing our own old scars, can literally change the predictable. It can forge a new, healthier path, not just for us, but maybe even rippling out to those connected to us.
The profound impact of negative emotions, social isolation, and how traumatic experiences like PTSD can trigger these automatic, uncontrolled physical responses. It's all driven by the survival paradox. It keeps us locked in that chronic alarm state. Dr. Elias even mentioned scar injections as a unique clinical approach, trying to physically release the trauma held deep within the body's tissues, acknowledging that the body really does keep the score.
So, okay, bringing this all together, given everything we've explored, what does this mean for our ultimate well-being? What's the profound implication of truly transcending this survival paradox?
It really means that shifting from merely surviving to genuinely thriving isn't just possible, it's arguably our inherent state, our potential. The root of so much suffering, as Dr. Elias explains it, is often our fixation, our grasping onto things as if they're permanent when, in reality, everything is ever-changing and impermanent. This grasping creates contraction physically, mentally, emotionally, and it inhibits the natural change and flow needed for health and longevity. When we can truly let go, release that desperate need to control, to survive at all costs, we often realize that the fixation itself was the underlying cause, or at least a major driver, of the sickness.
And that letting go, it isn't just a mental concept. It has profound, measurable physical effects. It lowers stress hormones like cortisol. It reduces inflammatory compounds, allowing the body to finally rest, repair, regenerate. It really highlights how combining powerful mind-body methods like meditation or focused breathing with a targeted biochemical intervention like a galectin-3 blocker MCP, for instance, can yield truly amazing synergistic results. You're working from both ends.
Yeah, and it's important to acknowledge, too, that even practitioners, doctors, can fall into fixation by having rigid, anticipated outcomes for patients, for example, creating their own form of resistance to what might actually be possible. Dr. Elias talks about unlearning, the process of gaining knowledge, yes, but then critically letting go of preconceived notions, of rigid expectations. He sees this as an absolute prerequisite for true insight, for innovation, for deep meditation, and ultimately for profound healing.
And it all circles back, doesn't it, to realizing that everything is interconnected. Cellular behavior mirrors community behavior, mirrors global behavior. When we heal our bodies, when we shift ourselves from isolation to connection, maybe we also heal our relationships and even our connection to the earth around us. Wow. We've journeyed really deep into the survival paradox today. We've uncovered how our innate drive to survive, while absolutely essential for acute threats, can become this formidable chronic barrier to our healing, driven largely by that master protein, galectin 3. But more importantly, I think we've revealed the profound power we have through understanding this mechanism, through consciously letting go, and through cultivating a holistic approach that truly integrates mind, body, and spirit. That's where we unlock our healing potential.
Exactly. From the precision of biochemical interventions like modified citrus pectin, tackling it at the molecular level, all the way to the profound shifts possible in our emotional landscape through practices like meditation or consciously addressing deeply ingrained generational traumas.
Yeah.
The path to thriving is multifaceted, it's personal, and it's profoundly empowering when you grasp it.
So remember, you have choices in your health journey. Every small step you take toward reducing inflammation, fostering genuine connection with yourself and others, and releasing those mental and physical fixations, it all contributes to a larger transformative shift within you.
Ultimately, it's really about shifting perspective, shifting from fighting and struggling against perceived threats, internal or external, to embracing love, compassion, and a state of true healing. It's about allowing our bodies to finally tap into their innate, incredible capacity to regenerate and thrive.
So here's something to consider as we finish. If true healing involves dissolving the boundaries between the person and the disease, between isolation and connection, what boundaries in your own life, perhaps subtle ones, are you ready to let go of to truly thrive? Thank you for diving deep with us today. We really hope this exploration empowers you on your own path to greater health and harmony.